Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Baron here. I have some pretty cool stuff to talk to you about. Yes, for those of you who were not at the stream last night on Friday, that's right. This is, in fact, the Hindenburg, the Tier 10 German cruiser itself. You'll notice I have all the German cruisers. I also have all of the Russian destroyers. I was given the opportunity to show off to you guys the German cruisers and Russian destroyers prior to them coming out on October 19th, for those of you who are going to ask. Now, since you guys asked that question, I have a question that I would like all of you to respond to, please, in the comments below. And it's pretty simple. First, which German cruiser, we're going to go over all of the German cruisers and Russian destroyers briefly, but which German cruiser and which Russian destroyer do you want to see played first? We're going to do a ship request series for both lines of ships, the Russian destroyers and the German cruisers. We'll do it like I do all of my request series. The most upvoted one, the most voted for, gets shown, and in the next episode you vote for the next one. So I would imagine probably people are going to want to see the Admiral Hipper or the Hindenburg first, but you know what? I guess I got to read the comments and find out. But we're going to go over them. So yeah, let me know which German cruiser and which Russian destroyer you'd like to see played first. We're going to do that series. Let me know in the comments below. Secondly, for those of you who missed the stream last night or were not aware of it, you can head over to twitch.tv/BaronVonGamez and follow me there, and you'll get updates. You can get them via email and all kinds of stuff when I go live. Also, it's really simple. Follow me on Twitter, and I always tweet out when I'm going live. I give a little, an early one, and then I say when I actually am live. I also do giveaways and stuff. Like there was some giveaways while I was at TwitchCon. About a week ago. And yeah, so definitely follow me, join me on Twitch and on Twitter. Links in the video description below. But yeah, so anyway, without further ado, let's check these out. Yeah, I did get to play a number of these last night on stream. I did play this one, the Hermelin. It's kind of funny. What is it like? It's like a German yacht. Like, look at this thing. It looks more like a yacht with battleship guns than anything else. Not battleship guns, but you know what I mean. Ship guns, son. So here are the stats. Feel free to pause at any moment you'd like to see it. But the Hermelin has a powerful armament for Tier 1 and a relative high speed. It's got lower hit points than the Hashirate and the Erie, I noticed when I took it out. But the guns are pretty dang good. Like, especially when you get up close, firing AP, you can definitely hit some citadels with that. So now we're moving on to the Tier 2 Dresden. The Tier 2 Dresden has high speed and good armor, but it's got less powerful guns. So let's see, 105 millimeters, and what does this one have? 128 millimeters for the Hermelin. So the Dresden, you drop in caliber of gun, but you have a great number of them. You have 10. And then you've got the Kohlberg here, the Tier 3. It's larger than the Dresden. It's got high speed, and it's got more artillery. And what they said, at least on the, what would you say, the website posting they had, was that the Kohlberg here could get upgraded, or at least historically, it was upgraded to have torpedoes. But I think what they mean by that is the Karlsruhe here got the torpedoes. Let's see, do they look similar? They look similar, right? But this one's got torpedoes. So at Tier 4, your German cruisers finally have torpedoes. You can see that they have a range of about 6 kilometers, and you get 4 of them. And it looks like maybe 2 per side. Yeah, there's the launcher right there. And let's check a look. Yeah, so you have about 2 per side. So not a whole lot, but if something gets in close, you can definitely whack it with some torpedoes. And it's got decent speed and strong armor relative to its tier, is what they're saying. And then here's where things start to get pretty interesting. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Tier 5 Koningsburgh, which I believe, is Kingsburg? Or like King City or something like that. Konings Tiger. Konig means king, I'm pretty sure. It's got decent anti-aircraft defense, nothing too special. But you do, what is it? Karlsruhe's got a rating of 5. So finally at tier 5, you feel somewhat like you can do something. But the real thing is, look at this. Look at the aft turrets. They're offset. And you've got 2 turrets in the back and only 1 in the front. So German cruisers, kind of from this tier and up, are pretty decent in most cases at firing on the run. Now what's I noticed interesting is you've got 2 88s as your secondaries right here. So if you look at it, there's this sweet spot. Granted, you can't control the secondaries, but if you're running and there's like a ship, you know, off this quadrant, would you call it? Off this, at this angle, all 4 of these rear guns would be able to fire at it. So I'm not sure if that will ever come into play or people will be able to show it off. Also, you've got 4 triple torpedo launchers, so you've got 6 per side, and they have a max range of about 6 kilometers themselves. You can see the speed, 32 knots, concealment, hit points, all that stuff. Feel free to pause and check the stats. This is a cursory overview, more for you guys to get a feel of, hey, which ship do I want to see Baron play? Now, when you go up to the tier 6 Nuremberg, you'll notice that the turrets are, what would you say, aligned. They're not offset like the Koningsberg. You finally see some HE-51 seaplanes, which I think that's what it is, right? Let's see what it says. Arado AR-197. So it's not an HE-51C, which I'm familiar with playing. But yeah, so 1 turret in the front, 2 in the rear. And let's see, the Nuremberg is an upgraded Koningsberg with better performing guns, and it has swarm anti-aircraft. You'll notice that your AA rating jumps up from, what is it, a 10 to a 25 because you have a lot of cannons. You've got 20 mils, 37 mils, and 88s, as well as even a few machine guns on there. So this thing's got a little bit better of anti-aircraft rating. And let's see, then we're going up to the tier 7 York class. Now, like I said, all these ships are coming out on October 19th. So once you hit tier 7, you've got 2 turrets in the front and 2 in the back for 8 total guns, whereas the Nuremberg had 9. And let's see, they are 210 millimeters. And the Nuremberg had 150s. So the York's definitely got some powerful guns here. And Fly Daily played it and called it the glass cannon. A lot of the German cruisers right now kind of play like that. They have great guns. But in a lot of situations, the armor, at least right now, and I'm not sure if that's just development or whatever, like I said, I'm getting these things like close to 3 weeks before they come out. So they're definitely in a process of development, right? And things are going to be changed and patched in the future. But apparently it's got better protection and much better firepower at the 210 millimeter guns. Plus, when chasing down opponents, you're able to put 4 guns on target. Then finally, the tier 8, the Admiral Hipper. Let's see, the Admiral Hipper is kind of where you first see your first German heavy cruiser. And you got, I love the catapult planes. Look at that. Looks like a BF-109 over there. Yeah, it's a BF-109G that's catapult launched. How cool is that, man? And you've got 203 millimeter guns. Wait a minute. Can you upgrade these? Probably, right? 203, but the York had 210s. Interesting. So anyway, going back to the Admiral Hipper. Heavy cruiser, greater accuracy and better gun fire control, and better strength and survivability than the previous tier 7 York. There's all the stats if you want to pause at any time. And we're going to skip the turrets because we've already played that many times, and that is in fact a battleship and not a cruiser. Now we've got the tier 9 Rune. It's got more anti-aircraft. The anti-aircraft defense jumps up from, what, 31 to 34. Not amazing at this tier, but you know what? It's somewhat decent, I would imagine. And it's got a lot of the firepower. It kind of goes back to where you have the majority in the aft portion of the ship. You can see you've got your 6 of your 203 millimeter guns in the back. what's interesting is you've got a number of secondaries, and if you look at the front, the secondaries are oriented pretty cool right here. Those you don't have manual control over, they are in fact secondary guns. And you've got one turret in the front, and you've kind of got that swarm anti-aircraft design again. This is a pretty beautiful looking ship, man, I'll tell you that. The rune. And finally, we got the Tier 10 Hindenburg. I did get to play this last night. It was my first game, and it was not a good one for me. But it's got more powerful main artillery. You've got, what is it, 12 203mm main guns. And you've got 16 secondary 105s. As you can see in these little interesting looking gun turrets all over there. It's definitely like weird looking. And you know, you've got some torpedoes on a number of these ships. This one having 16 torpedoes, 8 per side, with a range of 6 kilometers. So German cruisers got decent torpedoes when mixing it up at close range. It's all a matter of, can you survive? So anyway, you have an idea of which German cruiser you'd like me to play first. And now we're going to be taking a look at the Russian destroyers, which I had some of them I had a lot of fun playing. There's some really interesting things. You've got the fastest ship in the Russian destroyers. You have what I'm calling a Tier 3 baby Kitakami because of how many torpedoes it has. And then you have rocket-powered torpedoes is what I'm calling them. Like, these are just obviously... We'll get into it. We'll get into it. But some of these are really, really fun, and I had a lot of fun playing them. So Russian destroyers, we've got the Tier 1 Russian Orlan, but you'll see how it says cruiser, and you'll notice that it has an anti-aircraft defense, but at Tier 1 you never really encounter any carriers, maybe some scout planes, I'm not sure. But it has an anti-aircraft rating nonetheless. But it has no torpedoes, because no Tier 1 ship has torpedoes yet. Now we have the Savoy, and please feel free to correct my pronunciation, teach me some things. But yeah, the Savoy has a speed of 35.2 knots, or 35.4 knots apparently, and rapid firing, modest guns, but it has 9 torpedoes, 3 triple launchers. One of the sets is under these little lifeboats, and the other 2 are in the back. So 9 torpedoes is pretty good. You'll notice that the torpedo range on these things is incredibly short. It's even shorter than American destroyers, which usually have a stock range of 4.5 kilometers. These you only have 3 kilometers, but you have 9. And the trade-off with Russian torpedoes is you have a very, very fast reload rate. Oftentimes, by the torpedoes end and meet the end of their range, you have the ability to fire them again. So you can get in close and brawl out, but you are in fact a destroyer. But it's a fun tactic, and it's a whole different play style. So that is the Savoy, which, you know, short-range torpedoes is the trend. Now here, this thing is the Derski, right? And it means daring in Russian. Now, I like to call it the Derpski, and it is, in fact, so far, my favorite destroyer at this time. My favorite Russian destroyer. Why is that? Well, you'll notice it's got 10 torpedoes. You've got 5 double launchers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 here in the back. The guns are terrible because the traverse rate on these things is just like, it's miserable. Like, it makes you wonder what's going on. But these things, like, yeah, they're just so bad. The traverse rate on these guns is just downright shit. But it's still my favorite ship to play because this is what I call, when you play it, it's either Derski or Derpski. You either have a great daring game or you get wrecked. But it is so fun. That's why I call it the baby Kitakami. My favorite ship out of all the new ones, but, you know, granted, I'm gonna pick a silly one. That's just how it goes. So it's the first turbine-driven destroyer, but the 10 torpedoes, and this thing can fire torpedoes at 3 times a minute. It's got short range, it's got low top speed of 32.8 knots, and it's got weak artillery with terrible traverse rate. But honestly, you use this thing because you want to drop 10 torpedoes on a target. The advantage of having 5 separate torpedo launchers is you can definitely cover a pretty decent area and even trick people into trying to dodge torpedoes in a certain way. Like send 2 here, he's going to turn in, and then you dropped 8 right there. Like I've killed a couple ships already in this thing, and I love it. I've also gotten wrecked a few times, but you know what? That's the thing, man. You either Derski or Derpski. So moving on to the Izyaslav here. And the Tier 4 Izyaslav doesn't have very good artillery or speed, but it's got quick firing torpedoes, and here the torpedoes can get upgraded to a range of 5 kilometers from 3. So at Tier 4 you finally get somewhat decent torpedo range. Your torpedoes have a farther range than most of the, well, I think what the American is the Clemson at Tier 4. So you got better range than that. And then we've got the Gnievny, which is interesting because we already have a Tier 5 destroyer in the game, the Gremyashi, right? And those torpedoes have a range of 8 kilometers on the Gremy. But on the Gnievny, you've got 6 with the range of 4 kilometers. And you've got powerful engines, good firepower, 38.4 knot speed. And you've got 4 quick-firing 130 millimeter main guns. You're easier to detect, but you're pretty fast and you're pretty maneuverable, and you've got great guns. So now the Russian destroyers kind of go into more of a pretty good gunboat mode. Still short-range torpedoes. The Izyaslav has, what, 5 kilometers? These ones can get upgraded to... Nope. They also have 4 kilometer range. It's just a slight upgrade. It at least seems like they get 1 knot faster. I think that's it, honestly. That's kind of funny. Anyway, so now we've got the Tier 6 Ognyevoy. And the Ognyevoy has 12 kilometer gun range. And you've got what? Main batteries, 130s in these 2 turrets. So you've got really far gun range for destroyers. Kind of resetting itself as the gunboat. You know, that's how the higher tier Russian destroyers play. But what's interesting is here's where you get the rocket torpedoes. I call them rocket torpedoes because they have a max speed of 70 knots. It's kind of nuts. These things are really fast, but they have a very short range. So if you come on something, wow, if you come up on an enemy ship and you're gonna launch torpedoes, it's gonna be very difficult for them to dodge. So those narrow bands would be pretty good, because they travel at such a high speed, 70 knots. They're the fastest torpedoes in the game. But yeah, so but you've got the shorter speed, but shorter range, but much faster speed. And you can fire 12 rounds per minute with the main guns, so you're kind of a gunboat. The Tier 7 Kiev also can get, it comes stock with the 70 knot torpedoes. And you can decrease the speed by 5 knots and really increase your maximum damage with the torpedo upgrades. But let's see, so the Kiev, also known as the Baku, it's got really strong artillery, 6 130mm range guns. You've got 2 in the front, so if you're chasing down an enemy destroyer, you're going to be doing pretty good, especially when you consider the fact that you've got a max speed of 42.9 knots. These things are great at running down enemy destroyers. You'll also notice that you have 10 torpedoes and these really cool looking quintuplet launchers right now. And then moving on for that, but you'll notice that your surface detectability range is really, really high. Your gun firing range is pretty decent at 11, but you've got really great guns and you've got good speed. So when you play these, you're chasing down crippled ships, or you're chasing down enemy destroyers, light cruisers, stuff like that. Now we've got the Tier 8 Tashkent, also known as the Blue Cruiser, and they call it the Blue Cruiser because it could match enemy cruisers in terms of firepower. You've got 6 130 main guns, 130mm main guns, max range of 11 kilometers, a speed of 40.4 knots, so not incredibly fast, but you know, like what, that's stock value. Do we go up in speed at all? Maybe you do. But yeah, so let's see, what is this? We're on the Tier 9 Udaloy, right? Tier 9 Udaloy, fast-firing 5.1-inch main guns. Did we just kind of hop around? I think we did. We herped the dirt. Yeah, so the Tashkent was what I was meaning to talk about. Unless we already talked about it. I don't know. ADD as tits right now. But yeah, Tashkent, you could see the stats. But yeah, let me know. So be thinking about which Russian destroyer. There's so many fun and unique options. So you've got faster firing 130 millimeter main guns on the Udaloy. You've got 15 torpedoes. You can upgrade them. So let's see. If you upgrade everything, pretty sure you could. These upgrade from triples to quintuples. Let's see. Yes. I thought they did. No, I guess not. Anyway, so the tier 9 Udaloy. But here's the one of the interesting things. Let's see, does the Tashkent have it too? This one, the Udaloy has, and I think even the Khabarovsk. Let's see. Okay, I understand. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's the tier 9 has a really unique torpedo arrangement. Because you know how a lot of cruisers have torpedoes on either side? Well, this side of torpedoes can't fire that way, so you can always fire 6. But say you dumped 6 off, and then a ship came up on the right, you know, on the starboard, you'd be able to fire triple. So you can fire 6 per side and then still have 3 in reserve for the other side, which is the first time I've seen torpedoes arranged like this, where you have some that are on the side and then one that's a uni-side. So I found that to be pretty interesting. And then finally, tier 10 Khabarovsk, which I believe is the fastest ship in the game at 43.4 knots. Very, very fast. You've got great guns. You've got 8 130s, twin turrets in the fore and the aft. And you've got these quintuplet launchers, so you've got 10 torpedoes to fire. And you've got the most hit points for a destroyer at 22,500 and the highest top speed. Your torpedoes have a range of 10 kilometers, but you can upgrade them to kind of lose torpedo range, but definitely increase and low speed, but increase maximum damage. So if you want to use that speed maneuver building, kind of zigzag in and make a run on a capital ship like a carrier battleship, you could do that. Or you could use your top speed and just run down enemy destroyers and use your amazing guns. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let me know which German cruiser you'd like to see me play first and which Russian destroyer. Also, make sure to join me on Twitter at BaronVonGamez and on Twitch, twitch.tv/BaronVonGamez, because I'm going to be doing a lot of streaming and stuff I did last night. That's where these were first shown off. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sticking around. Please, please, please let me know which ships you want me to sail out first. And remember that these are coming out on October 19th. I get to preview them for you, so please ask any questions you want and ask to see any of these ships. I'll be making the YouTube series for both Russian destroyers and German cruisers, and I'll be streaming these somewhat regularly, so stay on top of things, ladies and gentlemen, and I won't give you the torpedoes. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll be seeing you soon.